23 of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Survision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 23. 201. They are all fools who seem so besides half the rest. Folly arose with the world, and if there be any wisdom, it is folly compared with the divine. But the greatest fool is he who thinks he is not one, and all others are. To be wise, it is not enough to seem wise, least of all to oneself. He knows who does not think that he knows, and he does not see who does not see that others see. Though all the world is full of fools, there is none that thinks himself one, or even suspects the fact. 202. Words and deeds make the perfect man. One should speak well and act honorably. The one is an excellence of the head, the other of the heart, and both arise from nobility of soul. Words are the shadows of deeds. The former are feminine, the latter masculine. It is more important to be renowned than to convey renown. Speech is easy, action hard. Actions are the stuff of life, words its frippery. Eminent deeds endure, striking words pass away. Actions are the fruit of thought. If this is wise, they are effective. 203. Know the great men of your age. They are not many. There is one phoenix in the whole world, one great general, one perfect orator, one true philosopher in a century, a really illustrious king in several. Mediocrities are as numerous as they are worthless. Eminent greatness is rare in every respect, since it needs complete perfection, and the higher the species, the more difficult is the highest rank in it. Many have claimed the title great, like Caesar and Alexander, but in vain, for without great deeds the title is a mere breath of air. There have been few Senecas, and fame records but one Apelles. 204. Attempt easy tasks as if they were difficult, and difficult as if they were easy. In the one case, that confidence may not fall asleep. In the other, that it may not be dismayed. For a thing to remain undone, nothing more is needed than to think it done. On the other hand, patient industry overcomes impossibilities. Great undertakings are not to be brooded over, lest their difficulty, when seen, causes despair. 205. Know how to play the card of contempt. It is a shrewd way of getting things you want, by affecting to depreciate them. Generally, they are not to be had when sought for, but fall into one's hands when one is not looking for them. As all mundane things are but shadows of the things eternal, they share with shadows this quality, that they flee from him who follows them, and follow him that flees from them. Contempt is besides the most subtle form of revenge. It is a fixed rule with the wise never to defend themselves with the pen, for such defense always leaves a stain, and does more to glorify one's opponent than to punish his offense. It is a trick of the worthless to stand forth as opponents of great men, so as to win notoriety by a roundabout way, which they would never do by the straight road of merit. There are many we would not have heard of if their eminent opponents had not taken notice of them. There is no revenge like oblivion, through which they are buried in the dust of their unworthiness. Audacious persons hope to make themselves eternally famous by setting fire to one of the wonders of the world and of the ages. The art of reproving scandal is to take no notice of it. To combat it damages our own case. Even if credited, it causes discredit, and is a source of satisfaction to our opponent, for this shadow of a stain dulls the luster of our fame, even if it cannot altogether deaden it. 206. Know that there are vulgar natures everywhere. Even in Corinth itself, even in the highest families, everyone may try the experiment within his own gates. But there is also such a thing as vulgar opposition to vulgarity, which is worse. This special kind shares all the qualities of the common kind, just as bits of a broken glass. But this kind is still more pernicious. It speaks folly, blames impertinently, is a disciple of ignorance, a patron of folly, and pastmaster of scandal. You need not notice what it says, still less what it thinks. It is important to know vulgarity in order to avoid it, whether it is subjective or objective. For all, folly is vulgarity, and the vulgar consist of fools. 207. Be moderate. One has to consider the chance of a mischance. The impulses of the passions cause prudence to slip, and there is the risk of ruin. A moment of wrath or of pleasure carries you on farther than many hours of calm, and often a short diversion may put a whole life to shame. The cunning of others uses such moments of temptation to search the recesses of the mind. They use thumbscrews as are wont to test the best caution. Moderation serves as a counterplot, especially in sudden emergencies. Much thought is needed to prevent a passion taking the bit in the teeth, and he is doubly wise who is wise on horseback. He who knows the danger may with care pursue his journey. Light as a word may appear to him who throws it out, it may import much to him that hears it and ponders on it. 208. Do not die of the fool's disease. The wise generally die after they have lost their reason. Fools before they have found it. To die of the fool's disease is to die of too much thought. Some die because they think and feel too much. Others live because they do not think and feel. These are fools because they do not die of sorrow, the others because they do. A fool is he that dies of too much knowledge. Thus some die because they are too knowing, others because they are not knowing enough. Yet though many die like fools, few die fools. 209. Keep yourself free from common follies. This is a special stroke of policy. They are of special power because they are general, so that many who would not be led away by any individual folly cannot escape the universal failing. Among these are to be counted the common prejudice that any one is satisfied with his fortune, however great, or unsatisfied with his intellect, however poor it is. Or again, that each, being discontented with his own lot, envies that of others. Or further, that persons of today praise the things of yesterday, and those here the things there. Everything past seems best, and everything distant is more valued. He is as great a fool that laughs at all as he that weeps at all. 210. Know how to play the card of truth. 'Tis dangerous, yet a good man cannot avoid speaking it. But great skill is needed here. The most expert doctors of the soul pay great attention to the means of sweetening the pill of truth. For when it deals with the destroying of illusion, it is the quintessence of bitterness. A pleasant manner has here an opportunity for a display of skill. With the same truth it can flatter one and fell another to the ground. Matters of today should be treated as if they were long past. For those who can understand, a word is sufficient, and if it does not suffice, it is a case for silence. Princes must not be cured with bitter draughts. It is therefore desirable, in their case, to gild the pill of disillusion. End of section 23. Section 24 of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Servision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. 211. In heaven all is bliss, in hell all misery. On earth between the two, both one thing and the other. We stand between the two extremes, and therefore share both. Fate varies. All is not good luck, nor all mischance. This world is merely zero. By itself it is of no value, but with heaven in front of it, it means much. Indifference at its ups and downs is prudent, nor is there any novelty for the wise. Our life gets as complicated as a comedy as it goes on, but the complications get gradually resolved. See that the curtain comes down on a good denouement. 212. Keep to yourself the final touches of your art. This is a maxim of the great masters who pride themselves on this subtlety in teaching their pupils. One must always remain superior, remain master. One must teach an art artfully. The source of knowledge need not be pointed out no more than that of giving. By this means a man preserves the respect and the dependence of others. In amusing and teaching, you must keep to the rule, keep up expectation, and advance in perfection. To keep a reserve is a great rule for life and for success, especially for those in high place. 213. Know how to contradict. A chief means of finding things out, to embarrass others without being embarrassed. The true thumbscrew, it brings the passions into play. Tepid incredulity acts as an emetic on secrets. It is the key to a locked-up breast, and with great subtlety makes a double trial of both mind and will. A sly depreciation of another's mysterious word scents out the profoundest secrets. Some sweet bait brings them into the mouth till they fall from the tongue and are caught in the net of astute deceit. By reserving your attention, the other becomes less attentive and lets his thoughts appear, while otherwise his heart were inscrutable. An affected doubt is the subtlest picklock that curiosity can use to find out what it wants to know. Also in learning, it is a subtle plan of the pupil to contradict the master, who thereupon takes pains to explain the truth more thoroughly and with more force, so that a moderate contradiction produces complete instruction. 214. Do not turn one blunder into two. It is quite usual to commit 4 others in order to remedy one, or to excuse one piece of impertinence by still another. Folly is either related to or identical with the family of lies, for in both cases it needs many to support one. The worst of a bad case is having to fight it, and worse than the ill itself is not being able to conceal it. The annuity of one failing serves to support many others. A wise man may make one slip, but never 2, and that only in running, not while standing still. 215. Watch him that acts on second thoughts. It is a device of business men to put the opponent off his guard before attacking him, and thus to conquer by being defeated. They dissemble their desire, so as to attain it. They put themselves second, so as to come out first in the final spurt. This method rarely fails if it is not noticed. Let therefore the attention never sleep when the intention is so wide awake. And if the other puts himself second so to hide his plan, put yourself first to discover it. Prudence can discern the artifices which such a man uses, and notices the pretext he puts forward to gain his ends. He aims at one thing to get another. Then he turns around smartly and fires straight at his target. It is well to know what you grant him, and at times it is desirable to give him to understand that you understand. 216. Be expressive. This depends not only on the clearness, but also the vivacity of your thoughts. Some have an easy conception, but a hard labor. For without clearness the children of the mind, thoughts and judgments, cannot be brought into the world. Many have a capacity like that of vessels with a large mouth and a small vent. Others, again, say more than they think. Resolution for the will, expression for the thought, two great gifts. Plausible minds are applauded, yet confused ones are often venerated, just because they are not understood, and at times obscurity is convenient if you wish to avoid vulgarity. Yet how shall the audience understand one that connects no definite idea with what he says? 217. Neither love nor hate forever. Trust the friends of today as if they will be enemies tomorrow, and that of the worst kind. As this happens in reality, let it happen in your precaution. Do not put weapons in the hand for deserters from friendship to wage war with. On the other hand, leave the door of reconciliation open for enemies, and if it is also the gate of generosity, so much the more safe. The vengeance of long ago is at times the torment of today, and the joy over the ill we have done is turned to grief. 218. Never act from obstinacy, but from knowledge. All obstinacy is an excrescence of the mind, a grandchild of passion which never did anything right. There are persons who make a war out of everything, real banditti of intercourse. All that they undertake must end in victory. They do not know how to get on in peace. Such men are fatal when they rule and govern, for they make government rebellion, and enemies out of those whom they ought to regard as children. They try to effect everything with strategy and treat it as the fruit of their skill. But when others have recognized their perverse humor, all revolt against them, and learn to overturn their chimerical plans. And they succeed in nothing, but only heap up a mass of troubles, since everything serves to increase their disappointment. They have a head turned and a heart spoilt. Nothing can be done with such monsters, except to flee from them, even to the antipodes, where the savagery is easier to bear than their loathsome nature. 219. Do not pass for a hypocrite. Though such men are indispensable nowadays, be considered rather prudent than astute. Sincerity in behavior pleases all, though not all can show it in their own affairs. Sincerity should not degenerate into simplicity, nor sagacity into cunning. Be rather respected as wise than feared as sly. The open-hearted are loved but deceived. The great art consists in disclosing what is thought to be deceit. In the Golden Age, simplicity flourished. In these days of iron cunning, the reputation of being a man who knows what he has to do is honorable and inspires confidence, but to be considered a hypocrite is deceptive and arouses mistrust. 220. If you cannot clothe yourself in lion skin, use fox pelt. To follow the times is to lead them. He that gets what he wants never loses his reputation. Cleverness, when force will not do. One way or another, the king's highway of valor or the bypath of cunning. Skill has effected more than force, and astuteness has conquered courage more often than the other way. When you cannot get a thing, then is the time to despise it. End of section 24. The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Linda Sonrisa, Servision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. 221. Do not seize occasions to embarrass yourself or others. There are some men stumbling blocks of good manners, either for themselves or for others. They are always on the point of some stupidity. You meet with them easily and part from them uneasily. 100 annoyances a day is nothing to them. Their humor always strokes the wrong way, since they contradict all and every. They put on the judgment cap wrong side foremost, and thus condemn all. Yet the greatest test of others' patience and prudence are just those who do no good and speak ill of all. There are many monsters in the wide realm of indecorum. 222. Reserve is proof of prudence. The tongue is a wild beast. Once let loose, it is difficult to chain. It is the pulse of the soul, by which wise men judge of its health. By this pulse a careful observer feels every movement of the heart. The worst is that he who should be most reserved is the least. The sage saves himself from worries and embarrassments and shows his mastery over himself. He goes his way carefully, a Janus for impartiality, an Argus for watchfulness. Truly Momus had better placed the eyes in the hand than the window in the breast. 223. Be not eccentric, neither from affectation nor carelessness. Many have some remarkable and individual quality leading to eccentric actions. These are more defects than excellent differences. And just as some are known for some special ugliness, so these for something repellent in their outward behavior. Such eccentricities simply serve as trademarks through their atrocious singularity. They cause either derision or ill will. 224. Never take things against the grain, no matter how they come. Everything has a smooth and a seamy side, and the best weapon wounds if taken by the blade, while the enemy's spear may be our best protection if taken by the staff. Many things cause pain which would cause pleasure if you regarded their advantages. There is a favorable and an unfavorable side to everything. The cleverness consists in finding out the favorable. The same thing looks quite different in another light. Look at it therefore on its best side, and do not exchange good for evil. Thus it haps that many find joy, many grief, in everything. This remark is a great protection against the frowns of fortune, and a weighty rule of life for all times and all conditions. 225. Know your chief fault. There lives none that has not in himself a counterbalance to his most conspicuous merit. If this be nourished by desire, it may grow to be a tyrant. Commence war against it, summoning prudence as your ally, and the first thing to do is the public manifesto, for an evil once known is soon conquered, especially when the one afflicted regards it in the same light as the onlookers. To be master of oneself, one should know oneself. If the chief imperfections surrender, the rest will come to an end. 226. Take care to be obliging. Most talk and act not as they are, but as they are obliged. To persuade people of ill is easy for any, since the ill is easily credited even when at times it is incredible. The best we have depends on the opinion of others. Some are satisfied if they have right on their side, but that is not enough, for it must be assisted by energy. To oblige persons often costs little and helps much. With words you may purchase deeds. In this great house of the world there is no chamber so hid that it may not be wanted one day in the year, and then you would miss it, however little is its worth. Every one speaks of a subject according to his feelings. 227. Do not be the slave of first impressions. Some marry the very first account they hear. All others must live with them as concubines. But as a lie has swift legs, the truth with them can find no lodging. We should neither satisfy our will with the first object, nor our mind with the first proposition, for that were superficial. Many are like new casks, who keep the scent of the first liquor they hold, be it good or bad. If this superficiality becomes known, it becomes fatal, for then it gives opportunity for cunning mischief, The ill-minded hasten to color the mind of the credulous. Always, therefore, leave room for a second hearing. Alexander always kept one ear for the other side. Wait for the second or even third edition of news. To be the slave of your impressions argues want of capacity and is not far from being the slave of your passions. 228. Do not be a scandalmonger. Still less pass for one, for that means to be considered a slanderer. Do not be witty at the cost of others. It is easy, but hateful. All men have their revenge on such an one by speaking ill of him, and as they are many and he but one, he is more likely to be overcome than they convinced. Evil should never be our pleasure, and therefore never our theme. The backbiter is always hated, and if now and then one of the great consorts with him, it is less from pleasure in his sneers than from esteem for his insight. He that speaks ill will always hear worse. 229. Plan out your life wisely. Not as chance will have it, but with prudence and foresight. Without amusements it is wearisome, like a long journey where there are no inns. Manifold knowledge gives manifold pleasure. The first day's journey of a noble life should be passed in conversing with the dead. We live to know and to know ourselves. Hence true books make us truly men. The second day should be spent with the living, seeing and noticing all the good in the world. Everything is not to be found in a single country. The Universal Father has divided his gifts, and at times has given the richest dower to the ugliest. The third day is entirely for oneself. The last felicity is to be a philosopher. 230. Open your eyes betimes. Not all that see have their eyes open, nor do all those see that look. To come up to things too late is more worry than help. Some just begin to see when there is nothing more to see. They pull their houses about their ears before they come to themselves. It is difficult to give sense to those who have no power of will, still more difficult to give energy to those who have no sense. Those who surround them play with them a game of blind man's buff, making them the butts of others, and because they are hard of hearing, they do not open their eyes to see. There are often those who encourage such insensibility on which their very existence depends. Unhappy steed whose rider is blind, it will never grow sleek. End of section 25. Of the Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, SirVision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 26. 231. Never let things be seen half-finished. They can only be enjoyed when complete. All beginnings are misshapen, and this deformity sticks in the imagination. The recollection of having seen a thing imperfect disturbs our enjoyment of it when completed. To swallow something great at one gulp may disturb the judgment of the separate parts, but satisfies the taste. Till a thing is everything, it is nothing, and while it is in process of being, it is still nothing. To see the tastiest dishes prepared arouses rather disgust than appetite. Let each great master take care not to let his work be seen in its embryonic stages. They might take this lesson from Dame Nature, who never brings the child to the light till it is fit to be seen. 232. Have a touch of the traitor. Life should not be all thought. There should be action as well. Very wise folk are generally easily deceived, for while they know out-of-the-way things, they do not know the ordinary things of life, which are much more needful. The observation of higher things leaves them no time for things close at hand. Since they know not the very first thing they should know, and what everybody knows so well, they are either considered or thought ignorant by the superficial multitude. Let therefore the prudent take care to have something of the traitor about him, enough to prevent him being deceived, and so laughed at. Be a man adapted to the daily round, which if not the highest is the most necessary thing in life. Of what use is knowledge if it is not practical, and to know how to live is nowadays the true knowledge. 233. Let not the proffered morsel be distasteful. Otherwise it gives more discomfort than pleasure. Some displease when attempting to oblige, because they take no account of varieties of taste. What is flattery to one is an offense to another, and in attempting to be useful one may become insulting. It often costs more to displease a man than it would have cost to please him. You thereby lose both gift and thanks, because you have lost the compass which steers for pleasure. He who knows not another's taste knows not how to please him. Thus it haps that many insult where they mean to praise, and get soundly punished, and rightly so. Others desire to charm by their conversation, and only succeed in boring by their loquacity. 234. Never trust your honor to another unless you have his in pledge. Arrange that silence is a mutual advantage, disclosure a danger to both. Where honor is at stake, you must act with a partner so that each must be careful of the other's honor for the sake of his own. Never entrust your honor to another. But if you have, let caution surpass prudence. Let the danger be in common and the risk mutual, so that your partner cannot turn king's evidence. 235. Know how to ask. With some nothing easier, with others nothing so difficult. For there are men who cannot refuse. With them no skill is required. But with others their first word at all times is no. With them great art is required, and with all the propitious moment. Surprise them when in a pleasant mood, when a repast of body or soul has just left them refreshed, if only their shrewdness has not anticipated the cunning of the applicant. The days of joy are the days of favor, for joy overflows from the inner man into the outward creation. It is no use applying when another has been refused, since the objection to a no has just been overcome. Nor is it a good time after sorrow. To oblige a person beforehand is a sure way, unless he is mean. 236. Make an obligation beforehand of what would have to be a reward afterwards. This is a stroke of subtle policy. To grant favors before they are deserved is a proof of being obliging. Favors thus granted beforehand have two great advantages. The promptness of the gift obliges the recipient the more strongly, and the same gift, which would afterwards be merely a reward, is beforehand an obligation. This is a subtle means of transforming obligations, since that which would have forced the superior to reward is changed into one that obliges the one obliged to satisfy the obligation. But this is only suitable for men who have the feeling of obligation, since with men of lower stamp the honorarium paid beforehand acts rather as a bit than as a spur. 237. Never share the secrets of your superiors. You may think you will share pairs, but you will only share pairings. Many have been ruined by being confidants. They are like sops of bread used as forks. They run the same risk of being eaten up afterwards. It is no favor in a prince to share a secret. It is only a relief. Many break the mirror that reminds them of their ugliness. We do not like seeing those who have seen us as we are, nor is he seen in a favorable light who has seen us in an unfavorable one. None ought to be too much beholden to us, least of all one of the great, unless it be for benefits done him rather than for such favors received from him. Especially dangerous are secrets entrusted to friends. He that communicates his secret to another makes himself that other's slave. With a prince this is an intolerable position which cannot last. He will desire to recover his lost liberty, and to gain it will overturn everything, including right and reason. Accordingly, neither tell secrets nor listen to them. 38. Know what is wanting in yourself. Many would have been great personages if they had not had something wanting without which they could not rise to the height of perfection. It is remarkable with some that they could be much better if they could be better in something. They do not perhaps take themselves seriously enough to do justice to their great abilities. Some are wanting in geniality of disposition, a quality which their entourage soon find the want of, especially if they are in high office. Some are without organizing ability, others lack moderation. In all such cases, a careful man may make of a habit a second nature. 239. Do not be captious. It is much more important to be sensible. To know more than is necessary blunts your weapons, for fine points generally bend or break. Common sense truth is the surest. It is well to know, but not to niggle. Lengthy comments lead to disputes. It is much better to have sound sense, which does not wander from the matter in hand. 240. Make use of folly. The wisest play this card at times, and there are times when the greatest wisdom lies in seeming not to be wise. You need not be unwise, but merely affect unwisdom. To be wise with fools and foolish with the wise were of little use. Speak to each in his own language. He is no fool who affects folly, but he is who suffers from it. Ingenuous folly, rather than the pretended, is the true foolishness, since cleverness has arrived at such a pitch. To be well liked, one must dress in the skin of the simplest of animals. End of section 26. Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, SirVision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 27. 241. Put up with raillery, but do not practice it. The first is a form of courtesy, the second may lead to embarrassment. To snarl at play has something of the beast and seems to have more. Audacious raillery is delightful. To stand it proves power. To show oneself annoyed causes the other to be annoyed. Best leave it alone. The surest way not to put on the cap that might fit. The most serious matters have arisen out of jests. Nothing requires more tact and attention. Before you begin to joke, know how far the subject of your joke is able to bear it. 242. Push advantages. Some put all their strength in the commencement and never carry a thing to a conclusion. They invent but never execute. These be paltering spirits. They obtain no fame, for they sustain no game to the end. Everything stops at a single stop. This arises in some from impatience, which is the failing of the Spaniard, as patience is the virtue of the Belgian. The latter bring things to an end, the former come to an end with things. They sweat away till the obstacle is surmounted, but content themselves with surmounting it. They do not know how to push the victory home. They prove that they can, but will not. But this proves always that they cannot, or have no stability. If the undertaking is good, why not finish it? If it is bad, why undertake it? Strike down your quarry, if you are wise. Be not content to flush it. 243. Do not be too much of a dove. Alternate the cunning of the serpent with the candor of the dove. Nothing is easier than to deceive an honest man. He believes in much who lies in naught. Who does no deceit has much confidence. To be deceived is not always due to stupidity. It may arise from sheer goodness. There are two sets of men who can guard themselves from injury: those who have experienced it at their own cost, and those who have observed it at the cost of others. Prudence should use as much suspicion as subtlety uses snares, and none need be so good as to enable others to do him ill. Combine in yourself the dove and the serpent, not as a monster, but as a prodigy. 244. Create a feeling of obligation. Some transform favors received into favors bestowed, and seem, or let it be thought, that they are doing a favor when receiving one. There are some so astute that they get honor by asking, and by their own advantage with applause from others. They manage matters so cleverly that they seem to be doing others a service when receiving one from them. They transpose the order of obligation with extraordinary skill, or at least render it doubtful who has obliged whom. They buy the best by praising it, and make a flattering honor out of the pleasure they express. They oblige by their courtesy, and thus make men beholden for what they themselves should be beholden. In this way they conjugate to oblige in the active instead of in the passive voice, thereby proving themselves better politicians than grammarians. This is a subtle piece of finesse. A still greater is to perceive it, and to retaliate on such fools' bargains by paying in their own coin, and so coming by your own again. 245. Original and out-of-the-way views are signs of superior ability. We do not think much of a man who never contradicts us. That is no sign he loves us, but rather that he loves himself. Do not be deceived by flattery, and thereby have to pay for it. Rather condemn it. Besides, you may take credit for being censured by some, especially if they are those of whom the good speak ill. On the contrary, it should disturb us if our affairs please everyone, for that is a sign that they are of little worth. Perfection is for the few. 246. Never offer satisfaction unless it is demanded. And if they do demand it, it is a kind of crime to give more than necessary. To excuse oneself before there is occasion is to accuse oneself. To draw blood in full health gives the hint to ill will. An excuse unexpected arouses suspicion from its slumbers. Nor need a shrewd person show himself aware of another's suspicion, which is equivalent to seeking out offense. He had best disarm distrust by the integrity of his conduct. 247. Know a little more, live a little less. Some say the opposite. To be at ease is better than to be at business. Nothing really belongs to us but time, which even he has who has nothing else. It is equally unfortunate to waste your precious life in mechanical tasks or in a profusion of important work. Do not heap up occupation and thereby envy, otherwise you complicate life and exhaust your mind. Some wish to apply the same principle to knowledge, but unless one knows, one does not truly live. 248. Do not go with the last speaker. There are persons who go by the latest edition, and thereby go to irrational extremes. Their feelings and desires are of wax. The last comer stamps them with his seal, and obliterates all previous impressions. These never gain anything, for they lose everything so soon. Everyone dyes them with his own color. They are of no use as confidants. They remain children their whole life. Owing to this instability of feeling and volition, they halt along cripples in will and thought, and totter from one side of the road to the other. 249. Never begin life with what should end it. Many take their amusement at the beginning, putting off anxiety to the end. But the essential should come first, and accessories afterwards, if there is room. Others wish to triumph before they have fought. Others again begin with learning things of little consequence, and leave studies that would bring them fame and gain to the end of life. Another is just about to make his fortune when he disappears from the scene. Method is essential for knowledge and for life. 250. When to change the conversation. When they talk scandal. With some all goes contrariwise. Their no is yes and their yes no. If they speak ill of a thing, it is the highest praise. For what they want for themselves, they depreciate to others. To praise a thing is not always to speak well of it. For some, to avoid praising what's good, praise what's bad, and nothing is good for him for whom nothing is bad. End of section 27. Of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Survision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 28. 251. Use human means as if there were no divine ones, and divine as if there were no human ones. A masterly rule. It needs no comment. 252. Neither belong entirely to yourself nor entirely to others. Both are mean forms of tyranny. To desire to be all for oneself is the same as desiring to have all for oneself. Such persons will not yield a jot or lose a tittle of their comfort. They are rarely beholden, lean on their own luck, and their crutch generally breaks. It is convenient at times to belong to others, that others may belong to us. And he that holds public office is no more nor less than a public slave. Or let a man give up both birth and burthen, as the old woman said to Hadrian. On the other hand, others are all for others, which is folly, that always flies to extremes, in this case in a most unfortunate manner. No day, no hour is their own, but they have so much too much of others that they may be called the slaves of all. This applies even to knowledge, where a man may know everything for others and nothing for himself. A shrewd man knows that others, when they seek him, do not seek him, but their advantage in him and by him. 253. Do not explain overmuch. Most men do not esteem what they understand, and venerate what they do not see. To be valued, things should cost dear. What is not understood becomes overrated. You have to appear wiser and more prudent than he requires with whom you deal, if you desire to give him a high opinion of you. Yet in this there should be moderation and no excess. And though with sensible people common sense holds its own, with most men a little elaboration is necessary. Give them no time for blame. Occupy them with understanding your drift. Many praise a thing without being able to tell why, if asked. The reason is that they venerate the unknown as a mystery, and praise it because they hear it praised. 254. Never despise an evil, however small, for they never come alone. They are linked together like pieces of good fortune. Fortune and misfortune generally go to find their fellows. Hence all avoid the unlucky and associate with the fortunate. Even the doves, with all their innocence, resort to the whitest walls. Everything fails with the unfortunate, himself, his words, and his luck. Do not wake misfortune when she sleeps. One slip is a little thing, yet some fatal loss may follow it till you do not know where it will end. For just as no happiness is perfect, so no ill luck is complete. Patience serves with what comes from above, prudence with that from below. 255. Do good a little at a time, but often. One should never give beyond the possibility of return. Who gives much does not give, but sells. Nor drain gratitude to the dregs, for when the recipient sees all return is impossible, he breaks off correspondence. With many persons it is not necessary to do more than overburden them with favors to lose them altogether. They cannot repay you, and so they retire, preferring rather to be enemies than perpetual debtors. The idle never wishes to see before him the sculptor who shaped him, nor does the benefited wish to see his benefactor always before his eyes. There is a great subtlety in giving what costs little, yet is much desired, so that it is esteemed the more. 256. Go armed against discourtesy, and against perfidy, presumption, and all other kinds of folly. There is much of it in the world, and prudence lies in avoiding a meeting with it. Arm yourself each day before the mirror of attention with the weapons of defense. Thus you will beat down the attacks of folly. Be prepared for the occasion, and do not expose your reputation to vulgar contingencies. Armed with prudence, a man cannot be disarmed by impertinence. The road of human intercourse is difficult, for it is full of ruts which may jolt our credit. Best to take a byway, taking Ulysses as a model of shrewdness. Feigned misunderstanding is of great value in such matters. Aided by politeness, it helps us over all, and is often the only way out of difficulties. 257. Never let matters come to a rupture, for our reputation always comes injured out of the encounter. Every one may be of importance as an enemy, if not as a friend. Few can do us good, almost any can do us harm. In Jove's bosom itself, even his eagle never nestles securely from the day he has quarreled with a beetle. Hidden foes use the paw of the declared enemy to stir up the fire, and meanwhile they lie in ambush for such an occasion. Friends provoked become the bitterest of enemies. They cover their own failings with the faults of others. Everyone speaks as things seem to him, and things seem as he wishes them to appear. All blame us at the beginning for want of foresight, at the end for lack of patience, at all times for imprudence. If, however, a breach is inevitable, let it rather be excused as a slackening of friendship than by an outburst of wrath. Here is a good application of the saying about a good retreat. 258. Find out someone to share your troubles. You will never be all alone, even in dangers, nor bear all the burden of hate. Some think by their high position to carry off the whole glory of success, and have to bear the whole humiliation of defeat. In this way they have none to excuse them, none to share the blame. Neither fate nor the mob are so bold against two. Hence the wise physician, if he has failed to cure, looks out for someone who, under the name of a consultation, may help him carry out the corpse. Share weight and woe, for misfortune falls with double force on him that stands alone. 259. Anticipate injuries and turn them into favors. It is wiser to avoid than to revenge them. It is an uncommon piece of shrewdness to change a rival into a confidant, or transform into guards of honor those who were aiming attacks at us. It helps much to know how to oblige, for he leaves no time for injuries that fills it up with gratitude. That is true savoir-faire, to turn anxieties into pleasures. Try and make a confidential relation out of ill will itself. 260. We belong to none, and none to us, entirely. Neither relationship, nor friendship, nor the most intimate connection is sufficient to effect this. To give one's whole confidence is quite different from giving one's regard. The closest intimacy has its exceptions, without which the laws of friendship would be broken. The friend always keeps one secret to himself, and even the son always hides something from his father. Some things are kept from one that are revealed to another, and vice versa. In this way one reveals all and conceals all. by making a distinction among the persons with whom we are connected. End of section 28.
Section 29 of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Davi Bicudo. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 29. 261. Do not follow up a folly. Many make an obligation out of a blunder, and because they have entered the wrong path think it proves their strength of character to go on in it. Within they regret their error, while outwardly they excuse it. At the beginning of their mistake they were regarded as inattentive, in the end as fools. Neither an unconsidered promise nor a mistaken resolution are really binding. Yet some continue in their folly and prefer to be constant fools. 262. Be able to forget. It is more a matter of luck than of skill. The things we remember best are those better forgotten. Memory is not only unruly, leaving us in the lurch when most needed, but stupid as well, putting its nose into places where it is not wanted. In painful things it is active, but neglectful in recalling the pleasurable. Very often the only remedy for the ill is to forget it, and all we forget is the remedy. Nevertheless, one should cultivate good habits of memory, for it is capable of making existence a paradise or an inferno. The happy are an exception who enjoy innocently their simple happiness. 263. Many things of taste one should not possess oneself. One enjoys them better if another's than if one's own. The owner has the good of them the first day, for all the rest of the time they are for others. You take a double enjoyment in other men's property, being without fear of spoiling it and with the pleasure of novelty. Everything tastes better for having been without it. Even water from another's well tastes like nectar. Possession not alone hinders enjoyment, it increases annoyance whether you lend or keep. You gain nothing except keeping things for or from others, and by this means gain more enemies than friends. 264. Have no careless days. Fate loves to play tricks, and will heap up chances to catch us unawares. Our intelligence, prudence, and courage, even our beauty, must always be ready for trial, for their day of careless trust will be that of their discredit. Care always fails just when it is most wanted. It is thoughtlessness that trips us up into destruction. Accordingly, it is a piece of military strategy to put perfection to its trial when unprepared. The days of parade are known and are allowed to pass by, but the day is chosen when least expected so as to put valor to the severest test. 265. Set those under you difficult tasks. Many have proved themselves able at once when they had to deal with a difficulty, just as fear of drowning makes a swimmer of a man. In this way many have discovered their own courage, knowledge, or tact, which but for the opportunity would have been forever buried beneath their want of enterprise. Dangers are the occasions to create a name for oneself, and if a noble mind sees honor at stake, he will do the work of thousands. Queen Isabella the Catholic knew well this rule of life, as well as all the others, and to a shrewd favor of this kind from her the great captain won his fame, and many others earned an undying name. By this great art she made great men. 266. Do not become bad from sheer goodness. That is, by never getting into a temper. Such men without feeling are scarcely to be considered men. It does not always arise from laziness, but from sheer inability. To feel strongly on occasion is something personal. Birds soon mock at the mocking. It is a sign of good taste to combine bitter and sweet. All sweets is diet for children and fools. It is very bad to sink into such insensibility out of very goodness. 267. Silken words, sugared manners. Arrows pierce the body, insults the soul. Sweet pastry perfumes the breath. It is a great art in life to know how to sell wind. Most things are paid for in words, and by them you can remove impossibilities. Thus we deal in air, and a royal breath can produce courage and power. Always have your mouth full of sugar to sweeten your words, so that even your ill-wishers enjoy them. To please one must be peaceful. 268. The wise do at once what the fool does at last. Both do the same thing. The only difference lies in the time they do it, the one at the right time, the other at the wrong. He catches by the foot what he ought to knock on the head. He turns right into left, and in all his acts is but a child. There is only one way to get him in the right way, and that is to force him to do what he might have done of his own accord. The wise man, on the other hand, sees at once what must be done sooner or later, so he does it willingly and gains honor thereby. 269. Make use of the novelty of your position, for men are valued while they are new. Novelty pleases all because it is uncommon. Taste is refreshed, and a brand new mediocrity is thought more of than accustomed excellence. Ability wears away by use and becomes old. However, know that the glory of novelty is short-lived. After 4 days respect is gone. Accordingly, learn to utilize the first fruits of appreciation, and seize during the rapid passage of applause all that can be put to use. For once the heat of novelty over, the passion cools, and the appreciation of novelty is exchanged for satiety at the customary. Believe that all has its season, which soon passes. 270. Do not condemn alone that which pleases all. There must be something good in a thing that pleases so many. Even if it cannot be explained, it is certainly enjoyed. Singularity is always hated, and when in the wrong, laughed at. You simply destroy respect for your taste rather than do harm to the object of your blame, and are left alone, you and your bad taste. If you cannot find the good in a thing, hide your incapacity and do not damn it straight away. As a general rule, bad taste springs from want of knowledge. What all say is so or will be so. End of section 29.
30. Of the Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Survision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian, translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 30. 271. In every occupation, if you know little, stick to the safest. If you are not respected as subtle, you will be regarded as sure. On the other hand, a man well trained can plunge in and act as he pleases. To know little and yet seek danger is nothing else than to seek ruin. In such a case, take stand on the right hand, for what is done cannot be undone. Let little knowledge keep to the king's highway, and in every case, knowing or unknowing, security is shrewder than singularity. 272. Sell things by the tariff of courtesy. You oblige people most that way. The bid of an interested buyer will never equal the return gift of an honorable recipient of a favor. Courtesy does not really make presents, but really lays men under obligation, and generosity is the great obligation. To a right-minded man, nothing costs more dear than what is given him. You sell it him twice, and for 2 prices, one for the value, one for the politeness. At the same time, it is true that with vulgar souls, generosity is gibberish, for they do not understand the language of good breeding. 273. Comprehend their dispositions with whom you deal, so as to know their intentions. Cause known, effect known, beforehand in the disposition and after in the motive. The melancholy man always foresees misfortunes, the backbiter scandals. Having no conception of the good, evil offers itself to them. A man moved by passion always speaks of things differently from what they are. It is his passion speaks, not his reason. Thus each speaks as his feeling or his humor prompts him, and all far from the truth. Learn how to decipher faces and spell out the soul in the features. If a man laughs always, set him down as foolish. If never, as false. Beware of the gossip. He is either a babbler or a spy. Expect little good from the misshapen. They generally take revenge on nature and do little honor to her, as she has done little to them. Beauty and folly generally go hand in hand. 274. Be attractive. It is the magic of subtle courtesy. Use the magnet of your pleasant qualities more to obtain goodwill than good deeds, but apply it to all. Merit is not enough unless supported by grace, which is the sole thing that gives general acceptance and the most practical means of rule over others. To be in vogue is a matter of luck, yet it can be encouraged by skill, for art can best take root on a soil favored by nature. There goodwill grows and develops into universal favor. 275. Join in the game as far as decency permits. Do not always pose and be a bore. This is a maxim for gallant bearing. You may yield a touch of dignity to gain the general goodwill. You may now and then go where most go, yet not beyond the bounds of decorum. He who makes a fool of himself in public will not be regarded as discreet in private life. One may lose more on a day of pleasure than has been gained during a whole life of labor. Still, you must not always keep away. To be singular is to condemn all others. Still less act the prude, leave that to its appropriate sex. Even religious prudery is ridiculous. Nothing so becomes a man as to be a man. A woman may affect a manly bearing as an excellence, but not vice versa. 276. Know how to renew your character. With the help both of nature and of art. Every 7 years the disposition changes, they say. Let it be a change for the better and for the nobler in your taste. After the first 7 comes reason. With each succeeding luster, let a new excellence be added. Observe this change so as to aid it, and hope also for betterment in others. Hence it arises that many change their behavior when they change their position or their occupation. At times the change is not noticed till it reaches the height of maturity. At 20, man is a peacock. At 30, a lion. At 40, a camel. At 50, a serpent. At 60, a dog. At 70, an ape. At 80, nothing at all. 277. Display yourself. 'Tis the illumination of talents. For each there comes an appropriate moment. Use it, for not every day comes a triumph. There are some dashing men who make much show with a little, a whole exhibition with much. If ability to display them is joined to versatile gifts, they are regarded as miraculous. There are whole nations given to display. The Spanish people take the highest rank in this. Light was the first thing to cause creation to shine forth. Display fills up much, supplies much, and gives a second existence to things, especially when combined with real excellence. Heaven that grants perfection provides also the means of display, for one without the other were abortive. Skill is, however, needed for display. Even excellence depends on circumstances and is not always opportune. Ostentation is out of place when it is out of time. More than any other quality, it should be free of any affectation. This is its rock of offense, for it then borders on vanity and so on contempt. It must be moderate to avoid being vulgar, and any excess is despised by the wise. At times it consists in a sort of mute eloquence, a careless display of excellence, for a wise concealment is often the most effective boast, since the very withdrawal from view piques curiosity to the highest. 'Tis a fine subtlety, too, not to display one's excellence all at one time, but to grant stolen glances at it more and more as time goes on. Each exploit should be the pledge of a greater, and applause at the first should only die away in expectation of its sequel. 278. Avoid notoriety in all things. Even excellences become defects if they become notorious. Notoriety arises from singularity, which is always blamed. He that is singular is left severely alone. Even beauty is discredited by coxcombry, which offends by the very notice it attracts. Still more does this apply to discreditable singularities. Yet among the wicked there are some that seek to be known for seeking novelties in vice, so as to attain to the fame of infamy. Even in matters of the intellect, want of moderation may degenerate into loquacity. 279. Do not contradict the contradictor. You have to distinguish whether the contradiction comes from cunning or from vulgarity. It is not always obstinacy, but may be artfulness. Notice this, for in the first case one may get into difficulties, in the other into danger. Caution is never more needed than against spies. There is no such countercheck to the picklock of the mind as to leave the key of caution in the lock. 280. Be trustworthy. Honorable dealing is at an end. Trusts are denied. Few keep their word. The greater the service, the poorer the reward. That is the way with all the world nowadays. There are whole nations inclined to false dealing. With some, treachery has always to be feared. With others, breach of promise. With others, deceit. Yet this bad behavior of others should rather be a warning to us than an example. The fear is that the sight of such unworthy behavior should override our integrity. But a man of honor should never forget what he is, because he sees what others are. End of section 30. Section 31 of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, SirVision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian, translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 31. 281. Find favor with men of sense. The tepid yes of a remarkable man is worth more than all the applause of the vulgar. You cannot make a meal off the smoke of chaff. The wise speak with understanding, and their praise gives permanent satisfaction. The sage Antigonus reduced the theatre of his fame to Zeus alone, and Plato called Aristotle his whole school. Some strive to fill their stomach, albeit only with the breath of the mob. Even monarchs have need of authors, and fear their pens more than ugly women the painter's pencil. 282. Make use of absence to make yourself more esteemed or valued. If the accustomed presence diminishes fame, absence augments it. One that is regarded as a lion in his absence may be laughed at when present as the ridiculous result of the parturition of the mountains. Talents get soiled by use, for it is easier to see the exterior rind than the kernel of greatness it encloses. Imagination reaches farther than sight, and disillusion, which ordinarily comes through the ears, also goes out through the ears. He keeps his fame that keeps himself in the center of public opinion. Even the phoenix uses its retirement for new adornment and turns absence into desire. 283. Have the gift of discovery. It is a proof of the highest genius. Yet when was genius without a touch of madness? If discovery be a gift of genius, choice of means is a mark of sound sense. Discovery comes by special grace, and very seldom. For many can follow up a thing when found, but to find it first is the gift of the few, and those the first in excellence and in age. Novelty flatters, and if successful, gives the possessor double credit. In matters of judgment, novelties are dangerous because leading to paradox. In matters of genius, they deserve all praise. Yet both equally deserve applause if successful. 284. Do not be importunate, and so you will not be slighted. Respect yourself if you would have others respect you. Be sooner sparing than lavish with your presence. You will thus become desired, and so well received. Never come unasked, and only go when sent for. If you undertake a thing of your own accord, you get all the blame if it fails, none of the thanks if it succeeds. The importunate is always the butt of blame, and because he thrusts himself in without any shame, he is thrust out with it. 285. Never die of another's ill luck. Notice those who stick in the mud, and observe how they call others to their aid so as to console themselves with a companion in misfortune. They seek someone to help them to bear misfortune, and often those who turned the cold shoulder on them in prosperity give them now a helping hand. There is great caution needed in helping the drowning without danger to oneself. 286. Do not become responsible for all or for everyone. Otherwise you become a slave, and the slave of all. Some are born more fortunate than others. They are born to do good as others to receive it. Freedom is more precious than any gifts for which you may be tempted to give it up. Lay less stress on making many dependent on you than on keeping yourself independent of any. The sole advantage of power is that you can do more good. Above all, do not regard responsibility as a favor, for generally it is another's plan to make one dependent on him. 287. Never act in a passion. If you do, all is lost. You cannot act for yourself if you are not yourself, and passion always drives out reason. In such cases, interpose a prudent go-between who can only be prudent if he keeps cool. That is why lookers-on see most of the game, because they keep cool. As soon as you notice that you are losing your temper, beat a wise retreat. For no sooner is the blood up than it is spilt, and in a few moments' occasion may be given for many days' repentance for oneself and complaints of the other party. 288. Live for the moment. Our acts and thoughts and all must be determined by circumstances. Will when you may, for time and tide wait for no man. Do not live by certain fixed rules except those that relate to the cardinal virtues. Nor let your will subscribe fixed conditions, for you may have to drink the water tomorrow which you cast away today. There may be some so absurdly paradoxical that they expect all the circumstances of an action should bend to their eccentric whims, and not vice versa. The wise man knows that the very pole star of prudence lies in steering by the wind. 289. Nothing depreciates a man more than to show he is a man like other men. The day he is seen to be very human, he ceases to be thought divine. Frivolity is the exact opposite of reputation. And as the reserved are held to be more than men, so the frivolous are held to be less. No failing causes such failure of respect. For frivolity is the exact opposite of solid seriousness. A man of levity cannot be a man of weight even when he is old, and age should oblige him to be prudent. Although this blemish is so common, it is none the less despised. 290. 'Tis a piece of good fortune to combine man's love and respect. Generally one dare not be liked if one would be respected. Love is more sensitive than hate. Love and honor do not go well together, so that one should aim neither to be much feared nor much loved. Love introduces confidence, and the further this advances, the more respect recedes. Prefer to be loved with respect rather than with passion, for that is a love suitable for many. End of section 31. Of the Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Linda Sonrisa, Servision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 32. 291. Know how to test. The care of the wise must guard against the snare of the wicked. Great judgment is needed to test that of another. It is more important to know the characteristics and properties of persons than those of vegetables and minerals. It is indeed one of the shrewdest things in life. You can tell metals by their ring and men by their voice. Words are proof of integrity, deeds still more. Here one requires extraordinary care, deep observation, subtle discernment, and judicious decision. 292. Let your personal qualities surpass those of your office. Let it not be the other way about. However high the post, the person should be higher. An extensive capacity expands and dilates more and more as his office becomes higher. On the other hand, the narrow-minded will easily lose heart and come to grief with diminished responsibilities and reputation. The great Augustus thought more of being a great man than a great prince. Here a lofty mind finds fit place, and well-grounded confidence finds its opportunity. 293. Maturity. It is shown in the costume, still more in the customs. Material weight is the sign of a precious metal, moral of a precious man. Maturity gives finish to his capacity and arouses respect. A composed bearing in a man forms a facade to his soul. It does not consist in the insensibility of fools, as frivolity would have it, but in a calm tone of authority. With men of this kind, sentences are orations and acts are deeds. Maturity finishes a man off, for each is so far a complete man according as he possesses maturity. On ceasing to be a child, a man begins to gain seriousness and authority. 294. Be moderate in your views. Everyone holds views according to his interest and imagines he has abundant grounds for them. For with most men judgment has to give way to inclination. It may occur that two may meet with exactly opposite views, and yet each thinks to have reason on his side. Yet reason is always true to itself and never has two faces. In such a difficulty a prudent man will go to work with care, for his decision of his opponent's view may cast doubt on his own. Place yourself in such a case in the other man's place, and then investigate the reasons for his opinion. You will not then condemn him or justify yourself in such a confusing way. 295. Do not affect which you have not effected. Many claim exploits without the slightest claim. With the greatest coolness they make a mystery of all. Chameleons of applause, they afford others a surfeit of laughter. Vanity is always objectionable. Here it is despicable. These ants of honor go crawling about, filching scraps of exploits. The greater your exploits, the less you need to affect them. Content yourself with doing. Leave the talking to others. Give away your deeds, but do not sell them. And do not hire venal pens to write down praises in the mud, to the derision of the knowing ones. Aspire rather to be a hero than merely to appear one. 296. Noble qualities. Noble qualities make noble men. A single one of them is worth more than a multitude of mediocre ones. There was once a man who made all his belongings, even his household utensils, as great as possible. How much more ought a great man see that the qualities of his soul are as great as possible? In God all is eternal and infinite, so in a hero everything should be great and majestic, so that all his deeds, nay, all his words, should be pervaded by a transcendent majesty. 297. Always act as if your acts were seen. He must see all round who sees that men see him or will see him. He knows that walls have ears, and that ill deeds rebound back. Even when alone he acts as if the eyes of the whole world were upon him. For as he knows that sooner or later all will be known, so he considers those to be present as witnesses who must afterwards hear of the deed. He that wished the whole world might always see him did not mind that his neighbors could see him over their walls. 298. 3 things go to a prodigy. They are the choicest gifts of heaven's prodigality: a fertile genius, a profound intellect, a pleasant and refined taste. To think well is good, to think right is better. 'Tis the understanding of the good. It will not do for the judgment to reside in the backbone. It would be of more trouble than use. To think aright is the fruit of a reasonable nature. At 20, the will rules. At 30, the intellect. At 40, the judgment. There are minds that shine in the dark like the eyes of the lynx, and are most clear where there is most darkness. Others are more adapted for the occasion. They always hit on that which suits the emergency. Such a quality produces much and good, a sort of fecund felicity. In the meantime, good taste seasons the whole of life. 299. Leave off hungry. One ought to remove even the bowl of nectar from the lips. Demand is the measure of value. Even with regard to bodily thirst, it is a mark of good taste to slake, but not to quench it. Little and good is twice good. The second time comes a great falling off. Surfeit of pleasure was ever dangerous, and brings down the ill will of the highest powers. The only way to please is to revive the appetite by the hunger that is left. If you must excite desire, better do it by the impatience of want than by the repletion of enjoyment. Happiness earned gives double joy. 300. In one word, be a saint. So it is all said at once. Virtue is the link of all perfections, the center of all the felicities. She it is that makes a man prudent, discreet, sagacious, cautious, wise, courageous, thoughtful, trustworthy, happy, honored, truthful, and a universal hero. 3 H's make a man happy: health, holiness, and a headpiece. Virtue is the sun of the microcosm, and has for hemisphere a good conscience. She is so beautiful that she finds favor with both God and man. Nothing is lovable but virtue, nothing detestable but vice. Virtue alone is serious, all else is but jest. A man's capacity and greatness are to be measured by his virtue and not by his fortune. She alone is all sufficient. She makes men lovable in life, memorable after death. End of section 32. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, survision.org. End of The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian, translated by Joseph Jacobs.